So good evening, everyone. Thank you. It's January 13th, 2021. So we have a guest with us tonight. Reverend Jundo Cohen is a Zen teacher and founder of the Treeleaf Zendo, a Soto Zen community using visual media to link Zen practitioners around the world. He was born in New York in 1960, ordained and received a Dharma transmission from Gudo Nishijima Zenji, who translated Shobogenzo with Chodo Cross. Reverend Jundo is a member of the Soto Zen Buddhist Association. He began Zen practice in 1980, has lived in Japan for most years since that time. He lives in Tsukuba, Japan, with his wife and 2 small children, working as a translator of Japanese. He is the author of The Zen Master's Dance, a guide to understanding Dogen and who you are in the universe. He is visiting us here tonight from Japan, and we welcome his instruction and words of wisdom. And I just want to make a plug for this wonderful book. I think that the explication of Dogen Zenji's teachings are clear and exciting and engaging. And I thoroughly recommend this book to you. So welcome, Reverend Jundo. Welcome.
And thank you, Ado, and thank you, everyone. I saw your talk this week on friendship.
Oh.
And I can only say that this is a lovely example because you're so welcoming and so nice to have you here. I hope you mind if my cat joins us here.
Oh, good. Let's see him.
I would say usually I give the talk out of the Zendo, but here I'm in my office today, just sitting at the desk. So
that's wonderful.
Well, thank you all for being here today, and I guess we're very informal. So should I just dive right in?
Please do. I just want to say for the audience, because they didn't hear, that we had a lot of power outage today. So we have a fairly small audience because of that, but it certainly can be found on YouTube in upcoming days.
Oh, very good. No, it's lovely. I've been speaking to quite a few groups, and I'm glad you're in a place where I don't have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning like the one group in Ireland.
Oh my goodness!
Everyone has been so warm and welcoming. My name is Jundo, and I'm here right now in Japan, where it's just coming up. It's just noon. I am a translator of Japanese, but my teacher was a real translator of Japanese, if I may say so. His name was Nishijima, and he's best known, I guess, for most Soto Zen people for translating the Shobogenzo, first from classical Japanese, then to modern Japanese, and then with Chodo Cross into English. And I worked with him on a few translations, though I'm not up to his league. And I have to confess something. Shobogenzo, Master Dogen's masterwork, sometimes after all these years, just mystified me. Still does, mystifies me. And I guess with this crowd here, nobody I need to explain who Dogen was. Is that correct?
Correct.
Raise your hand if you think it's the guy from the TV show Lost or anything. No. Well, here's the thing with reading the words of Dogen. He had a wild style, and he's obviously a highly trained Buddhist man who is, I sometimes describe him as a walking encyclopedia of references to old stories and obscure quotes, koans. But his way of expressing is unique in the Zen Buddhist world. I've spoken to Dogen scholars like Steve Hine, and they really say that there's no one quite like Dogen. And I was wondering all these years what he was on about. So, of course, like most of you, I read many, many books on Dogen, and some of them are marvelous. Like anything by Shohaku Okamura is just unbelievable and is a wonderful gateway into Dogen. And I recommend it to all of you. But if you're especially slow like me, I thought maybe it would be an opportunity to try to express Dogen, even for the people who need a bridge to dive in even a little deeper with Shohaku Okamura's books and then all the other wonderful books. So I looked around and I saw several approaches to Dogen. Some folks throw their hands up and say it's gobbledygook. And I know it's not that. And then there are other folks who say that, well, only an enlightened being can really understand what Dogen was about. And maybe so, but I think that Dogen had a little more going on in his game. Then there are scholars who write books in which they intellectually analyze every sentence, tying it into Kant or Heidegger or someone from Western philosophy, as if every sentence has a meaning. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem to be doing it for me either. So how to approach Dogen? So one day I'm standing in an art museum and there is a Picasso on the wall. And Picasso took a table and he took the leg from down here and he stuck it on the top and he put this side of the table over here. And I said, wait a second. This is a little bit like Dogen, who just takes an ordinary object, something we're used to, in this case, a standard Buddhist teaching, but by bending it into different ways and angles, casts new light on what we usually approach so that we see it in new ways. And I thought, that's great, but a table is kind of a stationary object. Is there anything more? And then one day I was kind of getting into jazz and I'm listening to Coltrane. And Coltrane takes an old standard and just, wow, brings it to life. Now, in this case, the example I want to use is, does everybody know the old standard, My Favorite Things, Julie Andrews, right?
Yes.
You know, Sound of Music, She's on the Mountain. Okay. Well, first off, I'm going to get everybody to sing together. And you, especially you, Ado, you got your microphone on. Ready?
Yeah.
When I say,
everybody,
ready?
Do you want people to unmute?
Yes.
It's
On three.
happening.
On three. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles. I think I'm messing it up already. Anyway, you know the song. You know the song.
These are
Yes.
two of my favorite things. Okay.
And then I listened to the Coltrane version. I ask everyone, when you leave here today, go onto YouTube, put Coltrane, My Favorite Things, and you'll hear Julie Andrews is there, the old standard. But then, man, Coltrane is off. He's syncopating time. He's taking this bit and put it over there. He's bending notes. He's bringing things in there, and you say, where did Julie go? And suddenly, there she's back again. Julie Andrews is popping in, and then Coltrane is off. And I thought, what is he doing? Well, he's expressing his favorite things. It's my favorite things, but he's bringing it to life. And I thought, I'm behind the tail here. I thought that maybe this is a bit what Dogen is doing, because Dogen is not just, playing a musical joke on us. Dogen was a highly trained, very educated, traditional Mahayana and Zen Buddhist scholar and student. He came out of the Tendai tradition and was well versed in basic 101 Mahayana Buddhism. And it is all through Shobogenzo. Shobogenzo never leaves the farm as far as being a Zen text, giving us our traditional teachings. But what he's doing in that word style is taking Julie Andrews and exploding it, bringing it to life. And that's what I'd like to show you today, if I can, a little bit, with an example. And the example is an old standard, a koan. And then we're going to have Dogen's wordplay and expressiveness with the koan. And then I'm going to, unfortunately, pour in my little extra gravy and try to go into what I think Dogen was doing there. Dogen was doing. So the standard of a koan, they usually say you're not supposed to try to understand koans intellectually. And this is true. This is true. And we say that koans are not logical. Well, it's not our ordinary logic. But for most Soto people, I think, koans have teachings in there that are being expressed already in a very wild style, because it's not something that we usually can express easily. So this koan has a couple of good teachings in there. And Dogen is working from those teachings, but he's expressing. So what are those teachings? Before we get into the koan, I'm going to give you a couple of, if I say, shortcuts, if I may, and I risk saying too much. But the most basic teaching in the koan, and that runs all through Dogen and all through Zen and our Mahayana, really, is the fact that everything is the beating heart and face of everything else. And I mean everything. Right now, I'm looking out my window here from my office, and I see our local scuba mountain. And the leaves are still fluttering off the trees here, I see, and in the breeze. And I'm sitting here with my tea this morning. And our usual way of seeing the world is the mountains over there. It's not me. It's not the leaf. This tea is not me. I drink it and it becomes part of me, but the teacup is separate. You know, this is our way of seeing the world. Separate, separate, separate. Related, connections, yeah, but not the same stuff. But not for the Mahayana man. The mountain is in the teacup, is in the leaf, and the teacup is Jerry. And that blowing leaf is Edo's nose. And things that happened a billion years ago and things that will happen tomorrow are just right this moment. Everything is a breathing, living, heart-beating face and life of everything else. I know it's crazy, but that's what we think. So I thought, how can I express this again? And I looked back at my own family, actually, because I'm the black sheep of the family. Everybody in my family is musical except for me. I wrote a book on music. I'm the one who's got 2 left feet and I'm tone deaf. I got to tell you right off. But my sister is actually a real jazz dancer. If anyone knows who Bob Fosse was, she was a Bob Fosse dancer. She's almost 80 years old and still teaching dance. She gets up there every day. She's like Yoda. She gets up with the cane and then she throws the cane down and she's doing all this fancy footwork and then she hobbles off again. She's amazing. So I asked her about dance. We talked many times and she said, oh, you know something about dance? I dance and I'm a dancer and there's another dancer and there's another dancer and there's a dance that's coming in 5 minutes and there was the dance before, but it's in every step. My step contains all the other dancers and their steps contain mine. And what happened with that dancer 20 minutes ago is brought to life in my gesture and leap now. And my gesture and leap now is opening the door to everything that's going to come in the dance. Everything in the dance contains everything else. There are no separate dancers. There's only the dance brought to life by each dancer. There's only each dancer brought to life by all the other dancers. There's only when you step back, the separate dancers disappear and there's just the swirl of dance. And when you get up close, there's each little gesture and each little finger moving and each little toe. I said, that's it. Yeah. And she loses herself in the dance too and finds herself. She just becomes the dance and the body movement. The body takes over. I said, yeah, that's like Dogen. So that's the first lesson I would like you to see in this koan, is that everything is bringing, how to say, action to everything else. And I know Amir and Brian over there, you feel like you're sitting in separate boxes on the screen, but there's only one screen here, guys. And Brian's nodding is Amar's breathing like that. Okay, anyway, that's the first one. The other one is something about right and wrong, which I'm going to go into. About when is life or the universe right and when is the universe wrong, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to read this old standard koan and then Dogen's treatment of it. Now, here's the old standard Julie Andrews, okay? Excuse me, kitty, I'm trying to work here. I'm trying to, okay? Yeah, the cat is giving a better teaching than anyone, I guarantee you here. Okay. Yao Shan asked Mazu, I have digested all the teachings of Buddhism. Wow. And read all the scriptures. But what was the ancestral master Bodhidharma's intention in coming to China from India in the West? And this is the first time I jump in. I have to all through this. But when we ask this question, why did Bodhidharma come to China? Sometimes it can just mean what it means, you know. Oh, why did he bother to make the trip? You know. But usually what we mean by this, it's kind of a code word for what's Zen about? Or really, what's it all about? Why? What? Why? It's the big question. Okay? That's how we usually take it. We'll come back to that. Thus questioned, Mazu responded, sometimes I make him raise an eyebrow or wink an eye, and sometimes I do not make him raise an eyebrow or wink an eye. Wait a second, sometimes I make this? And who's this I make? Bodhidharma, Buddha, Jason over there, Allison? Who is this I'm making raise an eye when I raise an eye? What? Who? What? Sometimes to make him raise an eyebrow or wink an eye is what's right. Sometimes to make him raise an eyebrow or wink an eye is not right. Okay, so there's the basic, my favorite things there. And something about what's it all about, and something about right and wrong. Now, here's Dogen, and you're going to see Dogen's wordplay, which I'll get to tearing it apart. But right now, like listening to Coltrane, let it wash through you. Because here's the thing about Coltrane, too. Sometimes if you said, hey, what did Coltrane mean by that note? Or what is he intellectually trying to say by that musical phrase? You would, of course, be missing the point, right? Dogen is the same. It's not always that he's trying to convey an intellectual idea by the sound of his music, but he always means something. There's a teaching in there, and he means, like Coltrane, man, what he feels. He wants you to dig in your bones what he's digging, okay? So some of this I want you to let wash through you because it's musical, man, okay? One more thing about Dogen. I'm sorry to give all this before we get in, but there's another way to look at this deep interconnection and interpenetration thing to see Dogen's style. And that is using the famous Thich Nhat Hanh story of the paper. Does everyone know that one? That a paper can, okay. Thich Nhat Hanh has a wonderful teaching of the deep inter-identity, interpenetration, everything is everything of the universe. He says, look at a sheet of paper. It contains the tree. It contains the sun. It contains the rain and the lumberjack who cut the tree to make the paper. And it's a wonderful teaching. But if I may say, with all due respect to the wonderful Thich Nhat Hanh, who's the master's master, it's a little plain teaching, very Squaresville, okay? How would Dogen handle it? Dogen would do this. He'd say, fold up that paper and origami lumberjacks come out. The rain is raining sun and the sunshine is raining lumberjacks. Same teaching, but his language play is just exploding it and bringing it to new life, man. He's saying it's such a deep interpenetration, inter-identity, inter-wholeness of the whole thing that the sun is raining lumberjacks. Like that, okay? All right, so here is Dogen's wordplay. Just let it wash through you. I'm going to make the mistake of picking it apart in a moment. Dogen comments. What Mazu said, Dogen comments, sorry. His eyebrows and eyes are the mountains and oceans. Because the mountains and oceans are his eyebrows and eyes. In his, quote, make him raise an eyebrow, he is to see the mountains, and make him wink is to understand the seas. Winking is the seas, the oceans. What? Now, one thing I'm going to just stop here again and show you a little rare example. It's so hard to do this in English, but you can get some of Dogen's wordplay too right here because he uses the word seas. He's talking about your eyes are the oceans, right? Dogen loved to take kanji that had triple, double meanings like that, or homonyms, and just play around with them. Why? It's musically fun. It's musically brilliant. So here he says, to make him wink is to understand the seas. It's to see the sea. It's the sea seeing. You see what I mean when I say the sea is seeing? Si, si, senor? Like that. Okay? It's just wordplay. Why did Dogen do it? Because it's just expressive, man. Anyway, I'm going to continue now. Now he gets into the right and wrong thing. The right answer truly is his. And he is actualized by having him raise the eyebrows and wink. Excuse me, kitty. But neither does not right mean not having him raise the eyebrows and wink. And to not have him raise the eyebrows and wink does not mean not right. Huh? All are equally the being time. Now, this is from a section of Dogen Shobogenzo called The Being Time, which says, just like we were saying that everything is everything else, every moment actualizes every moment. Your winking is the mountains, but your moment now is the moments to come and the moments past. Like my sister said, my right now is the dance. Yesterday, it was the dance they did in this theater. 2 years ago, it's the dance before they even built the theater. It's the dance after we're all long gone. You know. Anyway, the mountains are time and the oceans are time. Without time, the mountains and oceans could never exist. So we should not deny that time is existing in the mountains and oceans right here and now. If time were annihilated, the mountains and oceans would be annihilated. But as time is not annihilated, thus are the mountains and oceans preserved. And then somehow he brings it at the end down to the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, which, little hint, is your Zazen too. So then Dogen closes his passage. This being so, the morning star appears, the Buddha Tathagata appears, the eye appears, and raising up a flower appears. Each is time, and were there no time, it could not be thus. Okay, now I'm going to make the mistake of pouring words on Dogen's beautiful words. Please indulge. This is from my book, The Zen Master's Dance. Dogen plays on a cherished koan about a Zen master who inquires into the real meaning of Zen, which somehow eluded him despite all his studies of texts and theory. He asks why Bodhidharma bothered to come to China. In other words, what is Zen all about? Now, the traditional response about eyebrows and such can have a very direct meaning. Bodhidharma did nothing special. Traveling to China was the most natural of things, like winking. If he had not done it, why, someone else would have taken his place. On the other hand, our simple acts of winking and looking can also be known as the Buddha looking and winking. Now, again, I got to now put a footnote in my own words here, interrupting myself, but please indulge me. You know, for the Zen person, the most ordinary of things is the miracle. To be sitting in a chair, to be wearing eyeglasses, to be breathing, to scratch my nose. It is a miracle. And as we are going to see, all of time and space, every chemical reaction and law of physics in this universe, let us be here for the simple miracle of doing this to our left or right ear like that. So Zen people, we tend to believe that everything's kind of miraculous. But anyway, so Bodhidharma's coming is automatically miraculous. But Bodhidharma looking and winking can also be known as the Buddha looking and winking. Bodhidharma looking and winking. The whole universe looking and winking. And not doing so is still the ancient master's eyes and eyebrows not doing so. The whole universe not doing so. It is not a matter of our having to be aware of such fact all the time. Our face is still shared with the ancient master, although we do not feel so in a particular moment. Please excuse me again. So this morning, before I saw all of you, I had to send my son off to school, and I made him a little breakfast. I made him eggs. And we were really late, so I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, this is the whole universe right now making eggs. But you want to know something? It was. Making eggs for my son is the whole universe making the whole universe to feed the whole universe. Sorry, we Zen folks are crazy. We just believe that. And when I drive the car, I don't think it's all of reality driving the car, because if I think that, I'm going to drive right off the road. But it is the whole universe being, how shall we say, enlivened by my driving, just like the whole dance is enlivened by every dancer's step. If there were no dancers stepping on the stage, what dance would there be? And this is what we do. Okay. So our face is still shared with the ancient master, although we do not feel so in a particular moment. Even then, it is still Bodhidharma's eyes and eyebrows as our eyes and eyebrows. Now, Dogen plays his Zen jazz to take this one step further. His eyes and eyebrows are the mountains and seas, and the whole world, and all within it. Winking the eye is an ocean winking, and raising an eyebrow is raising a mountain. Okay, one more. Why is this important to us? You know, we feel like dancers appearing in this life, like we've just popped up on a stage. And how did we get here? Let's spin around for a few years. Then we eventually, they say, get off the stage, exit stage right, and we're done. And we wonder, what's this whole life and death thing about, you know? How did we get here? Well, if you ask me, go ahead, ask. Okay, thank you. I'm going to answer. If we realize we're the dance, and the dancer loses herself to find herself as the dance, we realize we are the dance come to life, bringing it to life for our little time. But when we realize we're the whole dance, to the extent the dance was dancing before our time, to the extent the dance is dancing during our time, and to the extent the dance will dance on after, where did we come from? Where do we go? The dance dances on. Okay, so where was I? The right, and now he gets into the right and wrong. There may be right times and wrong times to do or not do an action, but ultimately there are no wrong times. Huh? There are no wrong times. Hard to believe. For each time is its own time, and even not doing is the right doing of a not doing, and get this, and wrongdoing is the right doing of a wrongdoing. And I, like many of you said, what could that possibly mean? What do you mean the wrongdoing is right? Okay, let me give you a couple examples. I made the mistake today before I came here of checking the news, and the world is still going crazy. If you wondered, today is as crazy as 2020. It's, there's so much wrong in the world. And I'm probably looking at your life, if it's like my life, so much wrong in our life sometimes. So what could it mean that things are right? Well, I want to give you a couple examples. First off, I was reading something by Einstein, who I sometimes bring in this talk, because he also had a sense that time is relative for each person. We're all in our own time, but it somehow all comes together as the great time, times merging and pulling apart like dancers. But there was another story about Einstein. He was in Nazi Germany, which I think we'd all agree was about as bad as bad can go. And yet he heard somehow a great right with the universe in his equations and the balance of the physics he was seeing. That somehow there's a great right that manifests this little world we live in that's sometimes right, so very right, and sometimes so very wrong, sometimes so beautiful, and sometimes so very ugly. And I think the Zen masters like Dogen heard this too. You know, this world of samsara we live in is beautiful and ugly, but yet there's something that in the dance itself. It's a dance that manifests as beautiful scenes and tragic scenes, comedy and tears and laughter. But yet the dance is somehow magnificent. And again, I didn't have a story, but my sister gave me one. She didn't mean to. She's not a Zen person, but she has a real story from her life, which I'm going to tell you. She got pregnant a few years ago. A few years ago, she's 80, quite a few years ago. And unfortunately, the doctor said you have to stay in bed, and she did, but she lost the baby anyway. And after a few weeks, she was in good shape. She got back on the stage after not having danced for a few months. And her body just took over. She still knew what to do. And the loss of the child had not hit her. And suddenly she said, the tears just started coming down. And she threw it all into the dance, and the dance picked her up and sustained her, because suddenly it was a dance of birth and a dance of death, a dance of coming, a dance of going, a dance of happiness and a dance of like that. There's something in the magnificence, the beauty of the dance that swept in, yes, even these times of tears. So somehow, yes, even the wrong times to us crazy Zen folks are somehow right. Where was I? I'm in the wrong place. Oh, here I am. Nonetheless, Dogen would often remind us to do what's right and avoid doing wrong. For doing right helps clarify the heart and mind. So my sister has another story. I said to her, what happens at the dance when things go wrong? And she said, things never go wrong in the dance. I said, what do you mean? She said, what happens if the guy is supposed to pick you up and he drops you right on your keister? Or you're supposed to do a graceful leap and you trip and all your 2 feet. She said, it's all the dance. It becomes the dance. You dance from there. What? If you're on the ground, you get up as if you were supposed to be. And even if it's so bad, and this has happened, that the ambulance, they have to stop the show, and the ambulance, they carry you off the stage on a stretcher, it is the dance. And you dance on. And I said, that's it. Yeah. But she would remind us, even though it's all the dance, we try to dance gracefully. We try not to trip. And this was Dogen's lesson too. Even though it's all the dance, live with grace. Avoid the greed, the anger, the ignorance. Live with peace. Move with harmony as best you can. Try to be a graceful dancer, even when you trip, and you will, it's all the dance. Okay, anyway. Let me move on. Dogen says that eye and eyebrow, mountains and sea are all time. It's obvious that without time, none of these could have evolved or come to be. Thus he states, without time, the mountains and oceans could not exist. I think we all agree on that, right? You need time, billions of years to make mountains and oceans. That makes sense. But equally, without the motion of their and our evolving, time would have been frozen and never flowed. Without life, without us, this would be a stagnant, dead universe. Without the dancers, it would be an empty stage. There would be no dance. The dance of all things brings us to life, but our life brings life to all. The dance brings the dancers to dancing, but the dancers dancing dances the dance. I got to write that down, analyze that grammatically sometime, whatever I just said, but I think you get the point.
It's recorded.
But equally, without the motion of their and our evolving, time would have been frozen and never flowed. Thus, time needs us and is us as much as we need time and our time. Dogen says, so we should not deny that time is existing in the mountains and oceans right here and now. It is existing as you and me too, here and now. And so it is for all moments in time, such as when the Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree, saw the morning star and realized the truth. I think you all know the story about the Buddha's enlightenment at Rohats. Saw the morning star. He'd been searching for years. And I like to think he just put it all down, gave it up, and saw the star and realized the star's shining is his shining, is the tree. The tree's growing is your growing and my growing. And thus he said that famous quote, when I became, to paraphrase, when I'm enlightened, all things are enlightened. Like that. And it's in your Zazen too. When we sit Shikantaza, you know, it contains the billions of years. It contains the mountain and the leaf that's blowing out my window. It contains the cup of tea. Gilda's Zazen contains Cynthia and expresses Cynthia, like Gilda's dance expresses Ado's dance. The lights above and the stage below are all contained in the dance, and your Zazen holds the whole of it all, like that. Expresses, gives life to the whole of it all, every moment and everything. Like, we Zen folks are crazy. We believe stuff like this. And so it is for all moments in time, such as when the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree saw the morning star and realized the truth. It is said that after many long years of striving and pushing himself to the extremes of body and mind, the Buddha finally eased his heart under the tree. Seeing the clear light of the morning star in the sky, he said, I and all sentient beings on earth together are enlightened at once. All are enlightened at once, for all are one in this being time. Okay, so now the end of my talk, which fittingly I close with the famous reminder from the Buddha to shut up, which is after all these words, and I poured word on words, holding up the flower and just a smile. Shh. Years later, when the Buddha held up a flower and winked, Mahakashapa saw and understood with a smile. In that famous story, the Buddha silently held up a single flower as the wordless expression of the truth. And his disciple Mahakashapa understood and also expressed this silently. And yet I've poured thousands of words in your ear today, and I thank you so much for your patience. So that's it.
Will you take questions, Reverend Jundo?
Well, yes, actually, I get paid by the questions. So if there are questions here, it's money in the bank. So just kidding.
There's a part in the book, and I think it's in Being Time, I can't remember, but where you talk about the universe, that we each are a specific universe at the same time that we are all the universe, which I think is an important thing. Yeah. So could you just say a word about that, about how each one is the universe?
Yeah, well, I'll try, but you know, Zen folks, we all often risk again saying too much. But Uchiyama Roshi actually made this point. He said something that I've gotten asked about because it baffles people, and said, "When you go, the whole universe goes with you. When you die, the whole universe dies with you." And a lot of people say, "What does that mean?" Well, okay, it's like the three musketeers: one for all and all for one. Okay. Of course, we think that before our time, after our time, right now in our time, there's the universe and it doesn't need us. We come, we go. It's going to go on fine without us. And that I suspect that's true. But our corner of the universe enlightens the whole thing in our way. And it's a little like saying, like, when my sister's dancing on the stage, of course, the dance goes on before and after her time. But when she leaves the stage, it's not the same dance. Her dance is done, which is, it's now a different dance. Something like that. The universe without you is still the universe, but it's no longer the universe with you. Your universe has gone. And it's there's not one universe. There's just constantly changing universes on universes, intersecting and interacting. I think I got a friend who's a theoretical physicist who actually says there's kind of a holographic view of the universe where every inch actually contains every other drop. Every drop contains every other drop. and you think you're in the universe, but you are your universe intersecting with all the other universes. Every atom in your body is dancing its own universe. Every molecule is dancing its own universe. And when the hair falls off your head, that universe is emptied. You got to be a theoretical physicist or a Zen Buddhist, I guess, to get this stuff. But something like that. Of course, the universe goes on, but the universe is done, and we're on to the next. Something like that.
Yeah. I just think that explanation is helpful to people to understand their dance in the universe. I think it's helpful. So thank you. Thank you.
Jundo? Hello?
Yeah, Jerry. Hi.
Hi. I've got two things to mention. One of them has to do more directly with Zen, and the other a bit more with physics. But it seems to me that in your identification of the dance with the dancer, that's captured in the Genjo Koan when he says to carry yourself forward and experience the myriad things as delusion, that myriad things come forth and experience themselves as awakening. That seems to me to be very close to your identification of the dance with the dancer. Now, the other thing
that's why I got a chapter on the Genjo Koan. Yeah, absolutely. That's right on.
And the other thing I'd like to mention is a bit more academic, and that is, as I understand it, Einstein had a great appreciation for beauty and thought that harmony and beauty was essential in the development of science or of art. However, I do want to mention that he spent very little time in Nazi Germany. He left Germany and never to come back a few months after Hitler came to power. And his notion of time, I think, is much more precise than you mentioned. That is in the special one of the things that is fairly easy to read. A bright high school student can. You can read the section in the special relativity paper in which he essentially defines time. So, the main point there was that time, that there is not a clear sense of what two things happening at the same time are, if you're moving relative to each other. But I don't want to go there greatly, except I think I think you should be more careful and about introducing that sort of thing into the discussion.
Well, yeah, these analogies are never perfect, and I guess also I know some other things about Einstein. He was not the best father. Einstein was not a Zen fellow, so it's a very loose analogy, but it somehow helps maybe people get a sense that people in the past don't have. That clock time is not a fixed thing. That it is more fluid, interpenetrating, and at least if you're a physics dunce like me, it helps a little. But your point about being careful with Einstein is well taken.
Well, in this, doesn't Dogen say something about, I forget how many seconds there are in a second? In a moment, there are billion things happening in a moment. So
yeah.
In that sense of, if I understand what you're saying about Einstein, that there's only a single action, so that there are billions of actions happening one by one within a single moment.
And every moment here and now is every other moment there and then, no matter where and no matter when it was. As if, like my sister said, every leap she takes contains every other leap that has ever been leapt, like that.
Right.
We just believe that. And we also just have a sense. I was actually writing a book with my theoretical physics friend, and there was a lot of commonality. We believe in endless eons of time, and we believe in very fluid time, and we believe in maybe that there are universes upon universes. Yeah, but but it all comes down to, as Zen people, we don't get lost in. Here's the thing. If you're dancing the dance, you don't get lost in what's the name of the guy who built the theater, or who's the choreographer, what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. Just this leap and this gesture right now is all you need to do and know. So we say, okay, the big question, we're all the dance. It's wonderful. Toss yourself into the dance, but just chop wood and fetch water. Just your simple thing right now. Robert's going to leave here right now, and he's going to go change the oil on the car. It's the whole universe. Wonderful, but go change the oil. That's all you need to know. So the small actions we do are the leaps and the twirls of the dance. That's fine. We don't have to get lost in the big picture all the time.
So why does it matter?
Well, why does dance matter? Why do you dance? Why does my sister dance? You gotta dance. You know that song, gotta dance. You gotta dance. We gotta live. We're here. If you're born living, you gotta live. So Dogen would say, if you're gonna dance, dance with grace. If you're gonna dance, dance with some skill and balance. And if you're gonna live your life, don't mess it up. Don't get lost like so many folks do in endless desire and dissatisfaction and anger. Boy, we see examples of that. Just turn on the news today. Boy, angry people yelling at the other angry people, and it's terrible. Okay, live in peace, live with grace, live with love and balance, caring. If you're going to dance, dance well. So that's why it matters. I think.
Well, it sounds like people are getting ready to get their toe shoes on.
Yeah, well, that's one more point, if I may say. So I wrote a book, that's called, about how to dance, but you don't get it from a book, and you don't get it from the court. You remember, I think folks here, most of you are old enough to remember Arthur Murray with you put your foot here, right foot here, you don't get it from that either. You dance from dancing. So you don't read it from a book. You don't even get it from Dogen. You get it from bringing it to life in your life. So the book is just get you started.
Wonderful book. It's
okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And this is where I say to everybody, no refunds.
Oh, goodness. Well, you heard it. Jundo Cohen is from New York. So, the center of dance, let's face it.
Not if you've seen me, boy. I really wrote this book as guilt, because I grew up, my mother was a jazz singer. My uncle's a symphony conductor. My sister's the dancer. And you may see behind me, I just got a guitar for Christmas, and I'm trying to learn the D chord, and it sounds terrible. I am the black sheep of my family musically. So I guess I wrote this book kind of to open my conscience. Yeah. I
think you're doing very well in the dance, Jundo. I think you're doing very well in it. I think no excuses here. I think you're doing very well. So.
Want to hear my guitar? You wouldn't think so. Okay.
Practice, practice, practice. Right? That's what it takes. Practice, practice. And you need to develop a few calluses on the fingertips.
Oh, the D chord. I can't get the first string. I don't get the D chord. The guy's saying it's easy. I can't. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's so wrong that it's right.
Well, we are very enriched by your talk tonight. Excuse me. Wonderful subject, particularly at this really difficult time. It's such a treacherous time in America right now. And to understand that sometimes the dance is great and sometimes it's not so great. And yet it's the dance that we're in it.
It's unfortunately, it's a dance sometimes of health and a dance of sickness too.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So but we have to do the best dance that we can each. in the midst of all of that. So as you say, we have to live with grace. So very grateful for your time and your talk tonight. And don't know if there are any other questions that anybody has that they want to ask, but
I'd be curious. I'd be curious to hear about the book you're writing with your physicist friend. If you could say maybe just a few words about it. And for what it's worth, I hearing your talk, I didn't find any inconsistencies with relativity. I heard shifting reference frames and time is here. But I'd love to hear more about your book.
Yeah, the book with my physicist friend is has been ongoing for about 5 years because he's actually doing physics. So, he sends me like a paragraph, and then 3 months later we get another paragraph like that. But I think, he first started writing the book with me because he wanted to show the religious guy and put him right, to show him what the science is and our superstitious beliefs. And then I started finding all this common ground between his beliefs and a lot of our beliefs. Now, that doesn't mean everything. Buddhism has wild beliefs too, It's not all, it's a religion. It has wild things in it too. But there's a lot of common ground. And I think that's what we found when we were writing it, how much actually...
is there a specific topic?
No, just all kinds of things about matter and time. And well, anyway, there's just a lot that I don't want to say Dogen was anticipated modern physics, because it wasn't like that. It just so happens that their view of the world, their view of the world happened to have a lot of things that are very harmonious with what we now think about the universe. I think.
I remember this one line from Dogen always sticks with me. I never heard anything like it until I heard it, and it sticks with me. I haven't heard anything like it since, really. And it was, I think that objects are concretized time. Objects are time made, and wow, right? And that's just, so.
Yeah, that could be physics, or Dogen could say that, and I wouldn't know which one it was.
I
haven't heard physicists say that. I haven't heard a physicist put it quite that way. Maybe I just haven't heard it, but that was a unique, brilliant perspective, I thought.
All right. Well, thank you, Reverend Jundo. Very good wishes with this book. I really encourage it. I think it's a wonderful book.
Thank you for letting me take your time. Ba-dum-bum.
I wish we could sing you out somehow or dance you out or something. We could do that. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people who are dancing a lot to the Hanya Shingyo now because they think that Zen people are too stiff. So they're going Hanya, Kanji, Zai, Satsu.
We found a techno and club version, and we actually do. Okay. We're all. I'm putting the incense and I'm moving.
Right.
I got to be careful. I got to be careful not to drop the incense. But no, we do that. Yeah.
That's great. So I'm glad. I think it'll help loosen us up a bit to hear all of this. I really appreciate it. So, all right. Well, thank you very, very much, all of you. I could ring a bell to just finish, just so that we complete this wonderful Dharma talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.